and then we're going to get used to these meat alternatives. When a guy like that says that, I'm like, are you making money because of this? Like, why are you saying that? And by the way, you look like shit.
Public, and whether it's seed oils, high sugar, or just the chemicals that are banned in so many other countries, we give it to our children. The diet that our children are given is absolutely horrendous.
Sugar is the cheap one. Sugar is the addictive one, although alcohol is too. But sugar's the one we give to children and call it love.
Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Poison Apple Pod. Here with my wife, Kayla. She's going to rant about food dyes today, so it should be a fun time. Say before we get started, I would like to say, don't take anything we say as gospel. Do your own research, always, and always question authority, for sure. All right, Kayla, go ahead.
And there'll be links in the description to any sort of articles or any things that we went over, so that way if you want to verify it for yourself, go for it, or find any contradictory information. But I'm just using what I found and what is out there. So, but yeah, food dyes. The more we go down this rabbit hole of the unnecessary shit that they put in your food, the more it's if you go ingredient by ingredient, you just realize how much they just put in there that doesn't need to be in there. And so we started with the seed oils and sugar, and in almost every mass-produced food or boxed food or preserved food, there is usually some sort of dye. So that's what got me down the rabbit hole of food dyes, because it's just another unnecessary ingredient. It's just another ingredient that they kind of manipulate to do certain things, whether that's to sell more of it or make it look more appetizing or to just keep it looking better when it sits on the shelf for fucking years and years. But it's just, in my opinion, unnecessary, and it's kind of unnatural and weird. And so I've got a couple points to go over, but mostly food dye is not something that's been around for a long time, but it did start around the 1850s, and the first things that were dyed were butter and cheese, and it's just kind of exploded from there. It used to be an extensive list of dyes that we used, and now the FDA has gotten it down to about 7, and even those 7 are pretty controversial, especially with the reds. There's Red 3 and Red 40, and those are currently under review because most other countries don't use those, but here in the US we still use those. So, yeah.
With a lot of things other countries don't do that we do, put that potassium bromate in their bread and whatever they're doing to our rice and our fucking noodles and shit. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty evident when you go through different countries and look at their different health ailments. The US, for whatever reason, it seems like most, if not all, of our illness or food related diseases, just stuff that you're just consuming, and they're kind of okay with it. And the only reason they're okay with it is because you're a continuous consumer. The more you buy, the more you eat, the more they profit. It's just a really vicious, ugly cycle.
The sicker you get, the more big pharma you go to, the more they profit. Yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, the food dye industry, I guess, or food dyes in general, it doesn't even span the scope of just food. Because when I started to look into it, I'm okay, so you look at a package, an energy drink, and it's got food dye in it. Okay. And then you eat something that has food dye in it. And then it's okay, you feed your dog, and you notice there's little green and yellow and red kibbles in there, and you're just oh, actually, there's food dye in the dog food and the cat food and the bird food and everything's food. And then it's in the things you drink. And then you go to take an ibuprofen, and that has also been dyed. So it's it's not just food and drinks and other things, but it's also like medications as well. So it's like it is a broad scope. And part of the issue with like people wanting to ban food dyes is that it's used in so many things that to ban it would pretty much eliminate a whole like industry's profit. I mean, and the thing is, food dye is not really something that was created to be helpful. It was a byproduct of coal tar. So it was like a waste product that they're like, what are we supposed to do with all this? And it's like, oh, you can use it in dyes. So it's like, what? So
So
if you
what's the
just
purpose
decided
of?
not to
I
use
mean,
it,
like obviously food dyes. The purpose is to change the color of the food, but like,
yeah.
what's why? You know, like why add this unnatural like for no reason, basically just to make the food look a different way? Like literally, that's it, or what?
Pretty much, it just makes it more appealing. The brighter it is, we associate it with like fresher, or if you have like some processed food, like if you have a bag of Cheetos, it's like you want the uniform color to be consistent throughout the entire product. So they add dye to make it consistent throughout, no matter what the package is going through, like heat or moisture or how long it's being stored. So they try to keep it consistent that way.
Pretty gross.
Yeah. It was used. I feel like it's usually more in like kids' products, like or food marketed towards kids. Like it's always going to be like a rainbow colored like candy
Like,
package
isn't our
type.
meat dyed too, though? Like everything is dyed.
Yeah,
Everything is
I
food
mean
dyed,
like meat
right?
can be dyed to look fresher, like salmon being uh,
Pink,
dyed pink. Yeah, or different like
because it'd be
delis and
gray in
stuff.
captivity. Yeah,
Yeah, if they didn't
but they
add
dye
that.
salmon through the food that salmon eat. I thought, right?
They do that too. It's like, but it's like if you have a bunch of meat that's like been sitting on the shelves, it's like you can unwrap it, inject some dye into it and put it back out there and sell it.
That's so gross.
It's just,
Don't worry, guys.
yeah,
It's fresh as they inject some fucking dye into that shit. Fuck, man.
it's just weird. And it's weird to think that it could be in so many things that you eat on a daily basis. Like I said, if you drink anything that's not water, and even if you drink water, like when I add like a Mio to my water, it's like you're effectively adding like the dyes and shit. So it's like it's not
Those meals have to be.
inescapable, but it is one of the things where I'm just like, okay, like maybe you don't care about like what kind of oils are in there, maybe you don't care about sugar or soy, but it's like if you just read some of the shit that's on the back of these labels, it's like, what is this for? And is it necessary? And the thing is with food dyes, it's not, there's no nutritional value to them. So there's the only point in putting them in food is to make them to make the food a different color or to make it look better. And that's literally it. There's no other point. But the problem is what it's made out of. It's either going to be the coal tar, petroleum, or some sort of oil. But as
Yeah,
much
I want
as
to get
it's
into that
not,
too.
yeah, as long as it's, even though it's not nutritionally like helpful, there's a lot of like potential side effects to it that too many studies are like inconsistent to 100% put the blame on dyes. But there's enough information out there from all the different studies to have some sort of conclusion that those dyes are definitely affecting some things.
But we both know if the companies selling the dyes to all these other companies who are then putting it in their food are making enough money, they can just pay someone else off, and then these studies will just be whatever they want them to be.
Yeah.
Just like sugar,
Yeah.
just like everything
Inconclusive.
else.
Mm-hmm.
Crony
Yep.
capitalism.
Yeah.
Anyways, go
Just
ahead.
pay off
I
for
want to hear
fucking
about what
studies.
they're made out of. You said crude oil. Is that like a serious thing?
Yeah. That's,
What the
I
fuck?
don't really know. I mean, I tried to look into the process of like coal tar, and it's pretty much just taking a waste product and like refining it down and down and down until you have something that you can work with.
It reminds me of fluoride, right? Fluoride is a
But yeah,
waste product, and they just throw it in the water. It'll help their teeth,
yeah.
trust me. And people are so propagandized. They're like, as soon as you take the fluoride out of the water, they're like, oh, there goes your teeth. All right, buddy, eating fucking 10,000 pounds
The
of sugar
thing
every
about
day.
like using a waste product is like, so say that we didn't use food dyes whatsoever. Like, what would they do with all of that waste? So it's like
They
if
would
you
have to
even
pay to get
have,
rid of it, right?
they have to pay to get rid of it, right? They don't
So
want to.
imagine if you could take something that you were going to have to pay to get rid of and then sell it and make money off of it, like, you know?
Well, the thing is too, it's like, so what the studies usually found was that you can't conclusively tell how much food dye or what food dyes people are eating on a daily basis. So it makes it hard to track what should be the recommended like amount. The only and when it comes to companies, right, is if you have all of this waste, and it's not like you can like funnel a shit ton of it into people. If you break it down and it's just little amounts that we're getting, like I said, through all these different foods all throughout the day, and you have millions and millions of people eating this stuff, it's like it reminds me of kind of like the bugs that they discovered that can eat plastic. It's just like, oh, well, if they'll eat it and not say anything about it, then we'll just keep feeding it to them. It's like just really odd. And so the other interesting thing is that there are alternatives to food dye, like, or at least artificial food dye. There's natural food dyes. But what you'll get into with that is natural food dyes that are from like herbs or even bugs. Um, they're not as sustainable to create. You're going to waste a lot more environmentally trying to like have crops of like all these different spices and herbs to try to dye things. So it's just, it doesn't make sense to do it as like a crop or farming it. So it's like, why not make it in a lab? But either way, you're going to have some sort of waste regardless. Either way, it's going to be damaging to the environment regardless. It's just one slightly better than the other for the company, whereas one is slightly better for you.
So obviously they're going to go with whatever's best for the company. Whatever makes them more money, more profit.
Cheaper, more efficient, more consistent. That's what they're going to. And you don't even need to use the natural one either. You don't need to use any of them. That's the weird thing is like from just observing what's on packages and trying not to have like trying to pick products that have either no food dye in it whatsoever. It's just going to get back to the same point of like you're going to be eating fresh fruits and vegetables and meats. That's pretty much it. I think the only thing that we probably eat that has dye in it, if at all, is going to be cheese. But
damn, cheese is dyed too, huh? Well, butter, right? Or is our butter dyed?
Well, it depends. No, because we have like a butter it's fucking expensive.
All natural.
Yeah, the ones that are dyed are usually like margarine or like the I can't believe it's not butter type shit where it's like it's just oil that's been dyed yellow to look like butter, even though it's not butter.
Are you going to talk about margarine and butter and all that? Or is that not on the docket? Sorry if I'm speaking out of a turn here.
That is one that I didn't even include on here because I didn't go too far back to look at it with whole like butter wars or whatever it was called and the butter tax. But yeah, basically that's pretty much what started the whole FDA having to get created and involved in regulating different food dyes was the fact that people used it to manipulate the market.
Three-letter agencies, man.
Yeah, used it. I mean, like for a while in the early 1900s where people are still developing different dyes, a lot of dyes were causing like a lot of issues, health issues. So they had to be slowly removed. I think the last one that was removed was in 1990. So it's kind of odd to think that some of these foods that had unsafe like dyes and chemicals and shit were fed to like our parents or our grandparents. And it's like I said, when you think about it as in like, oh yeah, I drank that and it had dye in it and that had dye in it and that had sugar and this had this and this. At a single time or a single serving, it doesn't make a difference. But when it's like you're habitually eating it day after day, month after month, year after year, and not realizing
meal
it
after meal,
is when it adds up.
Meal after meal. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it starts to get dangerous. And that's why it's like, I'm not trying to be like, oh my God, there's food dyes and everything. But like I said, you eat it for long enough, it's going to start giving you issues. And so that goes to like the next thing is just like, there's a lot of studies and a lot of studies that get thrown out, but some or what most studies conclude, is that like adult humans are not as sensitive to food dyes as younger children or animals. Like obviously we're bigger, we're more like adapt, we are more like able to filter some of the shit out of our system. But for a young kid who's still like developing and still like going through the whole like intolerance of some foods and allergies to some foods, it can cause like allergic reactions, it can cause like hypersensitivity, it can cause like tumors and cancers. And it's been found in like if when they do the studies in like mice and other animals that it does at least most of the time have like a negative health effect. But because it's not been so consistent and proven, they can't officially say it and they can't officially ban it. But I really do feel like that has to do with somebody in the corner like waving a couple million, being like,
$2 million.
if you just sway the other way, we won't say anything. So a lot of the
Got to
studies
get reelected. I need this money to get reelected.
But that's then the weird thing is like it's like food dyes are it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. Like I don't know how else to put it. And like it's almost like if there is a food dye, like if you read a container or something and it has like a food dye in it, that almost 100% means that it's been processed in some way. But
yeah.
we don't eat processed foods, so it doesn't really fucking matter. But yeah.
You drink Red Bull, though.
And most colors.
Red Bull has dye in it. You drink Red Bull and it has dye in it.
Yeah, it says, you know what, it's colors. They don't even tell you what kind of dye is in there. They just say colors. So it's like, they don't even have to fucking say what they're putting in the stuff that you're eating and drinking and consuming. So yeah.
Sorry, my cat's up here. I'm petting him.
But yeah. So food dyes suck pretty much.
And
yeah, so now there's only 7 of them left that are FDA approved. And that's not even like, I'm not even going to go into the whole, and it's a whole rabbit hole I haven't gotten into because I know it's massive. But like the dyes that are involved in your, like in makeup or in shampoo and soaps and all this other shit.
Deodorant I hear has problems too, right?
There's dyes and there's fucking weird ass chemicals and everything, but I stick to mostly like what is the shit that I am consuming because that is going directly into my body. But I'm sure I can go down that whole like things that you're putting on your body probably suck just as bad. But I'd rather fix it from the inside out, I guess. So yeah. But
I feel like you should question everything that you eat and drink. And you consume like mind-wise, like news or just propaganda. You should just always question everything. Who's making money off of it? Whose agenda does it serve? Why is this even a thing a lot of the time?
Yep.
Just like fluoride. Just saying.
Yeah.
That shit's crazy.
That's going to be a topic at some point when
soy.
I get like, the full scope of it. Soy. All of it. And the weird thing too about like food dye is, so like we said, it's like in your pet's food, and that can cause allergic reactions. And if it's like really unnecessary in any animal food, they do have like they can see colors. But
I can say your bird though. Your first bird won't eat its food unless it's that green and red dyed.
Yeah.
Pellet though.
Yeah. It's like pretty much eating fucking Fruit Loops for fucking birds. And I hate it, honestly.
He won't eat anything else though. It's crazy. And what were you saying about like? It's weird how they make all of your food like really bright colored, but like that in like nature would mostly mean it'd be poisoned or not good to eat anyway. So it's kind of weird how it's like we're all gravitating towards like really bright colored shit when like it's like taking us away from our roots almost. I don't know. It's weird, man.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Anything that's usually like really bright colored in any sort of like you look at plants
like toads, you know, those frogs.
Toads, yeah, like those poison dart. Anything that's usually bright is like a don't fuck with me. type thing. And instead, we're just like, a pack of Skittles. It's eat the fucking rainbow, or whatever the fuck their shit is. Like,
Taste the rainbow.
Taste the rainbow. So it's like,
Oh, don't get him started.
but I mean, like, there's different colors that like happen naturally. I mean, for using natural food dyes, you can use like sweet potatoes and pumpkins have like the orange, and carrots have like the orange color. Like you can use, it's like kerosene or something that you can take from those and use a dye. You've got obviously like blackberries and different like grapes, grape skins, apples, tomato, like all the red, like there's colors everywhere in your food already. You don't need to add to it, especially if it's fake shit, in my opinion. But I don't know. But when you get into, okay, so like now you're sick from eating all of this disgusting shit and you get a medication, the medication, like a pill, is also dyed.
Wow.
So I have no fucking idea. When I researched it, in the one article, it basically said like some manufacturers used certain colors so that way it was more identifiable. Like I guess Viagra is like a blue pill and it's marketed the blue pill, and then
Blue
there's
Chew.
like and then
All
there's like a
American
purple
boners.
pill. So like
Sorry.
different medications have like become known for their color pill, and it's like apparently too to the point where like generic versions of said medication will also make sure that they follow suit in using the same color, so that way the consumer can identify it as like the same thing or like just as good. And I guess it was like blue and purple are associated more with like tranquilizers and like calming type of medications, whereas your orange and red are more of like a stimulant. Or but it's also weird because you cannot really measure colors or how much you're supposed to have of colors per day. I guess it was like in children's cough syrup, it's like 3 times the amount that you would normally get in any sort of other like food or medication, which was kind of odd. But yeah, I mean, like, just the shit is fucking everywhere. And I feel like normal people just don't think about it. But it's like, would you drink a clear Pepsi? It's like, it's known for its color.
Oh no,
so
I wouldn't actually.
No, we wouldn't.
I
I wouldn't
Pepsi,
drink that
I
shit
would.
no matter what.
Right.
But that's what they mean. It's just like, that something, it's just like, if you had
they
like
condition the population though. They conditioned us like that. If they just kept everything without the dyes, people would just see the food as the way that it's supposed to be. But instead, you're conditioned to see it a certain way. So now it'll be so
which
hard
is
to
also
go
weird
back.
because
It would be like almost impossible.
Like the only dark thing that we drink is like coffee, but when you look at like Pepsi, it just looks like
sludge.
I just don't know what's appealing about that. So, but
The sugar
I mean,
is
we used to
appealing.
drink
It's sweet. It tastes good. It tastes sweet. It's addicting as fuck. That's what's appealing about it. The way it looks like isn't even what's appealing. So why do they even dye it? You know what I mean?
Right.
They want to make it look different than water, I guess. Like, I don't know.
When you think about the things that you ate as a kid that were like brightly colored, they were always like really shitty things. Like, and I always remember fighting with my siblings. Like, Gushers. I want the blue one, or I want the orange one, or I want this color. It's like your popsicles. Course, yeah. Like getting giant ass Slurpees from like 7-Eleven or Speedway, or fucking like every candy, every sugary thing has like it's been dyed. And it's like that should be the indicator right there. Like if it's been dyed, it's probably poison. They're probably trying to cover up the fucking, like, it's just, ugh. But yeah.
I mean, it's just chock full of sugar, and sugar is literal poison, in my opinion, so. It is, dude. It's fucking horrible.
Well, it is, but it's just like, even when you think of like that, right? You ever go to like a candy shop and you see like the rock candy and it's like, looks like little crystals on a stick? That's food dye. It's just sugar with food dye. Like everything is literally sugar with food dye. We're just gonna dye it a different color, and it's still gonna fucking kill you. Like it's the weirdest fucking thing, and it's just to make it look more appealing, so that way you don't associate it with something bad. So you buy more of it and consume more of it without fucking realizing it. Ugh. And just because it looks pretty. But like honestly, like some carrots with a fucking pot roast look pretty to me. I don't need to dye it pink or fucking orange to want to eat it. So it's odd. But yeah. Yep. And that's another reason, I guess, too, why they use like food dyes and like supplements and vitamins. Because like Flintstone vitamins, right, were always dyed different colors and stuff. And I don't believe any of those that we took when we were kids were dyed naturally. So
But Kayla, we just watched a documentary, and that guy, he says that it was great because kids wanted to take them. It was the first time ever
because
kids
they were full of
wanted
shit.
to take their vitamins.
So that's the other. Okay, this is like a whole derailment, but just so you know, damn
fucking bird.
When you take a pill, and we'll say like you take a pill that your doctor prescribes you, and it's dyed orange. The thing is, the amount of medication that you need, we'll say, is 5 milligrams. Well, that would be like minuscule. So they have to add things to your pill to make it like substantial enough to like take it. There's going to be something in there. So usually they'll use glucose or some sort of like that shit that like celiac people are allergic to, like wheat, some sort of gluten. But they basically use it in the pill to make it like substantially bigger than like the tiny little shit that you actually need in the pill.
So
it's like
just
weird
give
because
everybody
it's
the little tiny pill,
because
just have to make it look bigger, make it look more substantial. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, and add shit to it. Well, they figured that out because they were giving pills to people with celiac disease, which is a gluten intolerance thing. But the problem was the pill itself contained gluten as like the carrier with the medication. So like they were having allergic reactions to their actual medication. So yeah, and the problem is when it comes to like food and like drug, like FDA, like all of this shit, they don't really do anything about it. Like at that point in time when it starts to become reported, it's usually like 10, 20, 30 years later. So it's like really hard to keep up with, well, are they actually going to fix these things? Are they actually going to change anything? And odds are if somebody's going to lose money, the answer is no. So
I feel like selling food is just like how like the government or media corporations or whoever, right? They're selling ads. When they sell ads to you, it's just all about looking appealing to like the surface level of your brain. It's like, oh, that looks
food
cool.
is supposed
I'll
to
look
be
at
a
that. It's
sensory
just like
experience.
Food. Yeah.
Like
it's
you
just
smell
like they figured out a
taste
perfect
it,
way
you see it.
to like program you to buy and believe and intake whatever they think that you should be buying and believing and intaking. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's crazy.
And
Some MK Ultra shit or something, man.
The thing with like all the major food companies are, I think there's like only 5 or 6 like really big corporations, and like those corporations own the little guys. So it's like Pepsi owns like, I don't even know if this is correct, but it's like Pepsi owns Nestle, this company owns this company, and it's like companies you wouldn't have thought were like I didn't know like those naked smoothies that we were getting were actually like a product from Pepsi. Ew. So it's just like it all trickles down, and the way they market it is weird because they want to make it look like it's organic or healthy or good for you when it's still made by the same shitty people that will sell you poison anyway. Like I think it's like one of the major, like Nestle, for example, what you think of is like candy and shit. Also, I believe owns like Iams or Purina, who makes like the dog food. So
really?
It's like it all.
I wonder why they put sugar in their dog food.
Right. Well, and then it's also weird because like, Nestle also has like cases of water. So I feel like part of being like one of the biggest fucking corporations ever is just owning absolutely every aspect of your production from top to bottom. So it's like, we're just going to get in fucking cases of like Nestle water. Use this Nestle water to make our Nestle chocolate. Use this. Like all of our corporations are just going to pay the other corporations inside. So it's like,
Well, yeah,
Eh,
for
shit's
sure.
wild.
It's like a company. They have a bunch of shit, but they don't want to pay you to distribute it, so they just make their own distribution company, and then they, you know what I mean, just like that. Yeah.
Pretty much, exactly.
100%.
So just buy locally and buy shit that is from your area, and
Not
don't
in a
buy
box.
anything. Yeah, anything that comes in a box is usually poison. Or you could probably make yourself without using all the extra shit that they put into it. Yeah. Yep. It's
So by
like
next
when we
episode,
go
though,
grocery shopping now, it's like going past all the shit that we can't even like. It's just all poison.
yeah, we spend so long in the grocery store looking at the back of literally everything.
Well, I
But
feel like it's worth it.
I have from a very credible source that the bacon I'm eating is from China, Kayla. I need you to look into this for me. My friend, he told me that it's actually serenaded in Chinese cum. So
Oh my!
I need you. Sunny
I
agrees.
hate
See,
you. You're. Our whole podcast now is discredited.
I'm just kidding. It's a joke, but for real though,
I
is
mean,
it
but
from
I
China or
bet
what?
there's a lot of food that we get in other fucking places that don't use, like, for example, if you got some, I don't even know
I just
what it
love
would be,
bacon, and I
but
need to know, Kayla. I need
a
you to
lot
look into
of
bacon for
places
me.
use like ingredients or parts of their product that are made in other countries and have it shipped here to finish said product. So it's like,
Yeah, see, I think he was actually telling me something very similar. He was saying how like they don't have to disclose that it was from China because even though the hog was raised and killed in China, it didn't get processed till it came here.
right. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I would, like, honestly, I could assume is true at this point. It sucks.
So when World
That's
War
awesome.
III starts, no bacon is what you're trying to say. It's gonna be a sad day
Well,
for
and
all of
the
us.
thing is, like, it's not, like I said, it's not hard to just raise your own shit. Like, I get if you don't have the space or the
Pigs?
fucking time to, but
Shit. I'm not trying to have pigs, are you?
I mean, if I don't have to kill
Hmm.
them, I would keep little piggies.
Let them live forever.
Let them live forever.
How am I gonna
And
get bacon if I let them live forever? Hmm? What's the point?
well, and that's the interesting thing is, like, you know what happens to like food waste when you're like done using it and stuff, and you got like this pile of shit. You give it to your chickens, you give it to your hog, you give it to the fucking livestock, and they literally turn
Yeah.
that into manure. And then you use that and you put it on your plants, and those plants give you food. And what'd you do with the extra bits and pieces of your vegetables? You give them back to the chicken. It's like, it's literally a whole fucking system. Why do we have to fuck with it? So
Because
grow
it
your
needed
own
to be
food.
done on a mass scale because it's just a way to make money.
It needs to be done on a mass
Way to
scale because
feed
a massive
everyone.
amount of retards don't
So
know how to
like
grow their own food.
it's all was because of World War One and World War Two. I just tell you, because all the people who used to grow their own food and make their own food all went off to war, and then they weren't there to make and grow their own food. So what did they have to do? They had to process their food, and it had to last forever. Like that's what it is. Like for real, it's crazy.
It's gross. Well, food isn't meant to be shelf stable for as long
Yeah,
as
no.
we've made it to be. Like, I definitely believe in like preserving with like canning and freezing, and like if you want to take it like fucking way back, you can use salt and different like
I mean,
brines
they're
to
still canning
preserve
salt
shit.
today, right? You use canning
Yeah,
salt to
there's
can
still
today. Yeah.
methods, but that's the problem is like everybody forgets these methods. Everybody forgets these things that were like handed down to them. Like,
Yeah. When
it's
you told
pretty much
me
coming to like
kids
a
that don't
lost
know cursive
generation.
can't read the founding
Any historical
documents, I was like,
documents?
oh
Yeah.
shit, man, that is kind of crazy to think about. Like, there'll be a time that no one can read cursive in this country, like for sure.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's kind of crazy to me. Sorry, go ahead.
It's going to be a big deal. I mean, when I remember the first time that I had like hired somebody recently, and I was like, all right, we're going to do your new hire paperwork. I need you to sign here. And they like, plain as day, just like wrote out their name. And I was just like, I said, I need you to sign. And they're like, I did. It's like, yeah, that's not how you sign your fucking name, dude. They're like, well, we don't do cursive in school anymore. I'm just like, well, that's fucking retarded.
It's like a challenge to how stupid we can make people. That's what I really
I
feel like it
mean,
is. It's
it's not
crazy.
100% necessary to do cursive, but I do agree you should be able to at least read it and write it and use it if necessary. But
Oh, but don't worry, the government will translate the cursive for the next generation, so everything will be
Well,
fine.
it's like I've
trust
never
me.
seen anybody put
Hmm.
LOL on a fucking check. So we're gonna
Don't
have
worry,
to-
we'll go ahead and translate this exactly the way it was written, guys. Don't you worry.
It sucks. But yeah. But that's all I got on food dyes. It's basically don't eat anything that has food dyes in it. Or avoid it
Especially
if you
red dye,
can.
right?
Especially red dye. There's a lot of information out there, speculatory information, part studies that will say
All the true shit
different
is
dyes do
speculatory
different things.
information, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
I mean, basically, it might cause cancer. It might cause some like neurological
But we
issues.
don't
The
know.
problem is that some of these things that have food dye in them can go through the blood-brain barrier, and they're not sure what the dye does once it gets up there. And so that's where the studies stop, because I honestly just feel like they don't
Well,
want
I
to
won't
fucking tell us.
speculate here, but I've got some ideas.
So I'm just this is where I need my lab coat, because then I'll be more convincing.
Oh,
I'll be like,
God.
I've done the research and I've done the studies on
I've
2
got
dogs.
the documents. Got the documents right here.
I fed my dogs nothing but blue dye for 2
Like the
months, and now
female
they're brain
Alex
dead.
Jones. God damn it.
No. Yeah.
Look at this
The
dog.
fucking-
It's just a Roo. Look at her. She's brain dead because of the dye. It's like, no, she's brain dead because she's a pug. Dude.
Oh my god, the dyes are turning the frogs gay. I'm just. It is what it is. The information's out there. I'm just saying, if it's got food dye in it, you probably should know that it's poison. But
Well, so what do we got coming up? What are we talking about next?
we can. I mean, I can look into. See, the problem with looking into China and bacon is that they've probably
Look into the
buried
China
it.
bacon. It doesn't have to be a whole podcast.
Okay,
I
we'll
just
go
need
in.
a
We'll go
segment.
into
I need a
some
segment
meat.
of the next podcast where we talk about bacon and if it's from China and if it's still good to eat. Okay.
Okay, well, we'll do meats and bacon in China.
Mostly bacon.
Okay.
What else
But-
though?
We've got like soy that we can cover, because soy is another big one that's like in food that people like mistake for something healthy when it depends on if you're talking to a fucking vegetarian or a fucking carnivore, the opinion of soy. So
Nobody cares about the opinions of vegetarians, so
yeah, we're about to go over bacon first before the soy. So there's
obviously.
that. But yeah. So yeah, we'll do those.
So we're gonna talk about bacon and soy. Sounds good. My
Yeah.
2 favorite subjects, especially.
Yeah, just don't eat the poison.
Okay.